all the attention that you've gotten?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point I'm pretty used to it, and I always tell people, like, I wouldn't want it any other way. Like, I'm happy to do media before every single game, especially when we're on the road. And there's a lot of people that maybe this is their first time getting to see us play, or all of you maybe the first time. Obviously, it's my first time in San Francisco, so I try to look at it in the best possible manner that I can, and it's still fun for me. And there's a lot of people that would want to be in my shoes and have those types of opportunities. And I think it's always good to remind yourself, like, there's always eyes on you. And I think my mom has always reminded me that ever since.
That perspective right there tells you everything about why Caitlin Clark dominates sports media in ways we've never seen before. She understands the responsibility that comes with the spotlight. But on January 1st, she used that platform for something else entirely, to call out officiating, and the internet absolutely lost it. Here's what happened. After staying relatively quiet on social media throughout the offseason, Clark's first post of 2026 wasn't a New Year's greeting or some generic motivational quote. It was a direct shot at referees during an Iowa Hawkeyes game. Quote, "That charge would not remotely close to being a charge. Simple, blunt," and it racked up 39,000 views in just 48 hours with 127 comments. Now, if you've followed Clark's career, this shouldn't surprise you. She's been vocal about officiating since her college days. The difference is, she's now the biggest name in women's basketball, and every word she types carries weight. Fans immediately jumped in with responses like, "Caitlin versus referees 2026 round 1, and I take it your continuing war with refs wasn't one of your New Year's resolutions."
Foul, stream low defense, another day, another clown show for the officials. Yes, now the WNBA referees has had their share of highlight moments, I should say, in the last couple years. Caitlin Clark has definitely been vocal, but she's been extremely vocal when it comes to college. We've seen her crash out on a lot of NCAA referees, and it looked like even though she's in the WNBA, she's not stopping that. Now, moving on to another story, we have to talk about the current situation with the Indiana Fever, man. The Indiana Fever is killing it on social.
That reaction from fans shows something crucial. They're paying attention to everything Clark does, even when it's about college basketball. She's not even playing in these games, but her commentary about Iowa officiating becomes instant sports news, and that's the kind of influence that transcends any single league. But let's talk about what this means for the WNBA specifically, because while Clark is tweeting about Iowa referees, there's a much bigger story developing behind the scenes. The CBA negotiation. As of January 3rd, there are approximately 6 days left before we get critical information about the collective bargaining agreement and the future structure of the league. This timing matters. When the league's biggest star is publicly criticizing officials, even college officials, it sends a message. Clark has never been shy about her opinions on WNBA referees either. We saw multiple instances last season where she expressed frustration with calls, and now she's maintaining that same energy in the offseason. The question becomes, is this helpful or harmful, as the league tries to negotiate a new CBA that could reshape everything? Here's the reality. The WNBA is at a crossroads. Viewership exploded in 2024 largely because of Clark. The Indiana Fever became the most watched team in league history. But with that success comes scrutiny, and part of that scrutiny falls on officiating quality. When your biggest star consistently questions referee decisions, it puts pressure on the league to address those concerns in meaningful ways.
Taking over Instagram. Media, it really, really should. Somebody said the Indiana Fever is so blessed to have Caitlin Clark. I don't know what this is. It says January 1st, Instagram 2026. Wow. It says WNBA Instagram followers on January 6th. Indiana Fever currently is almost at 1 million. The Aces at 600,000. Chicago Sky 500. Los Angeles Sports 4. The New York Liberty 4. Now, New York Liberty is one of the highest grossing franchise. Dallas Wings only at 300,000. They got Paige Beckers. Golden State Valkyries, which I thought they'll have way more. They had 280. Atlanta Dream 277. Minnesota Lynx 250.
And that social media dominance extends beyond just Clark herself. The Indiana Fever's Instagram following has skyrocketed to nearly 1 million followers as of January 1st. To put that in perspective, the Las Vegas Aces a team with multiple championships and established stars, sits at 600,000. The Chicago Sky has 500,000. The New York Liberty, despite winning the championship and having players like Breanna Stewart, only has 300,000 followers. The Golden State Valkyries, the league's newest expansion team with massive financial backing, has 280,000. The Dallas Wings sits at 277,000. Minnesota Lynx at 250,000. Seattle Storm at 250,000. Phoenix Mercury at 200, and the Connecticut Sun, despite being consistently competitive, has just 127,000 followers. The Fever has more Instagram followers than the championship team, the expansion franchise, and nearly double what most established franchises have accumulated over decades. That's not normal growth, that's transformative star power. And it's all happened in less than 1 year since Clark was drafted.
Blessed to have her, this young lady. One comment that said, can't believe the Fever are almost at a milli. They're definitely hitting that this year. I don't know if they'll hit it this year, man. I feel like Caitlin Clark got to come out and ball out for sure. She for sure got to come out and ball out. But the Caitlin Clark Foundation, like I stated, second to none. It's just great to see her doing this stuff for the community, for the kids out there, man. And I just wish more people would do charitable work, you know, because it just really uplifts your spirit. One of the kindest things you could do to somebody, well, for somebody is give back, you know, giving back and happiness and just seeing people just doing great things, man. And I'm big on that, guys. I do a bunch of stuff here in my local city of St. Louis, too, with charity work. But it's just definitely something that I wish.
This is where Clark's influence becomes undeniable. She's not just talking about charitable work in abstract terms. The Caitlin Clark Foundation is actively doing community outreach, and she's documenting it. That authenticity resonates with fans in ways that manufactured PR campaigns never could. But here's what makes the current moment so fascinating. While Clark is building this massive platform and using it for positive community impact, she's also not afraid to be critical when she sees something none. That referee tweet wasn't calculated PR, it was genuine frustration expressed publicly. And fans respect that authenticity even when, maybe especially when, it creates controversy. Think about the position this puts the WNBA in. On one hand, they have a superstar who's driving unprecedented engagement and bringing new fans to the sport. On the other hand, that same superstar is willing to publicly criticize aspects of the league, including officiating. League executives can't ignore her concerns because she represents too much of their current success, but they also can't let players dictate officiating standards through social media pressure. This dynamic is going to define the next phase of the WNBA's growth, because Clark isn't going anywhere. Her influence is only increasing, and as CBA negotiations continue, her voice, whether through official channels or Twitter posts about Iowa games, carries enormous weight.
I'm not here to lose subscribers. I'm here to tell you guys the truth and bring you guys the news. Now, some of you guys want to leave, so be it, leave. We're going to continue to do other content over here. It's not just going to be the WNBA. So if you guys want to show interest in, you know, staying and watch the other stuff, be sure to stay. You know, unlike other people, I don't just do WNBA content. But it is what it is, man. Let's jump right into this next story. That is Caitlin Clark.
That frustration is real. This creator lost 25 subscribers after posting honest analysis about the CBA negotiations. And that speaks to a larger issue within WNBA fandom right now. There's a divide between people who want unfiltered truth and people who only want positive coverage. But here's what's actually happening with those negotiations. The current CBA expires soon, and the terms of the new agreement will determine everything from player salaries to revenue sharing to expansion franchise fees. This isn't just paperwork. This is the framework that will either capitalize on the Caitlin Clark era or squander it. The players want a larger share of basketball-related income. They want improved travel conditions. They want better marketing support. The owners, meanwhile, are investing hundreds of millions into expansion franchises like the Golden State Valkyries and pointing to those investments as evidence of their commitment. But investment and fair compensation aren't the same thing. Clark's social media activity during this period isn't coincidental. She's the player who benefits least from the current system in some ways because her earning potential extends far beyond WNBA salary structures. Her endorsement deals dwarf what the league pays her, but she's also the player who could benefit most from a rising tide that lifts all boats. If the WNBA negotiates a strong CBA that increases overall player compensation and improves league infrastructure, Clark's teammates and future generations of players benefit directly.
They're the most followed team in all of the WNBA. Hell, they might have more followers than WNBA itself. And that's simply because of Caitlin Clark. I know Paige Beckers has been garnering a lot of attention, but her star power hasn't translated to the mainstream fans. It's typically a lot of old guard WNBA fans that show a hardcore interest in the Paige Beckers, which I always say this, man. I never will down Paige Beckers. I never would say anything bad about her. I like her. I like her style of play, but she's no Caitlin Clark when it comes to garnering fans and star power. And hopefully, man, we could see a 2026 season. I know these negotiations has been grueling, at least for me to cover. A lot of people just seem very uninterested in it.
Watch that interaction carefully. The way Clark talks about media obligations reveals her understanding of the business side of basketball. She knows that doing press conferences, especially on the road, isn't just about answering questions. It's about growing the game. It's about reaching fans who might be seeing her play for the first time. That's sophisticated thinking from a player who's barely one season into her professional career. But that sophistication also means she recognizes when something isn't right. When she tweets about a bad charge call in an Iowa game, she's not being petty. She's applying the same analytical eye she brings to her own game. She studies film obsessively. She understands basketball at an elite level. And when she sees officiating that doesn't meet that standard, she's going to say something. The question for the WNBA is whether they view that as a problem or an opportunity. Because here's the thing about officiating in professional sports. It's always going to be imperfect. Referees are human. They miss calls. They make mistakes. But when the league's biggest star consistently points out those mistakes, it creates pressure to improve. Better training, better accountability, better technology to assist with crucial calls. The NBA went through this exact evolution. Players complained about officiating publicly. Media scrutinized controversial calls. And over time, the league implemented replay review, upgraded referee training programs, and created more transparency around officiating decisions. The WNBA could follow that same path, using Clark's criticism as motivation rather than viewing it as insubordination.
All the attention that you've gotten.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point I'm pretty used to it, and I always tell people, like, I wouldn't want it any other way. Like, I'm happy to do media before every single game, especially when we're on the road, and there's a lot of people that maybe this is their first time getting to see us play, or all of you maybe the first time. Obviously, it's my first time in San Francisco, so I try to look at it in the best possible manner that I can, and it's still fun for me, and there's a lot of people that would want to be in my shoes and have those types of opportunities, and I think it's always good to remind yourself, like, there's always eyes on you. And I think my mom has always reminded me that ever since I was a young kid too. Like, even when you're a high school basketball player, there's young girls looking up to you and wanting to be like you, and you got to try to set the best example you can 100% of the time. And no one's going to be perfect by any means, but I think just reminding myself.
Here's what makes this situation so significant for the future of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark represents a new generation of player who understands media, embraces attention, and isn't afraid to speak honestly about what she sees. That's different from previous eras, where players were more cautious about public criticism, especially regarding officiating. The old guard approach was to handle concerns privately, work through proper channels, and avoid creating controversy that might damage the league's image. But Clark's generation grew up with social media. They watched NBA players tweet their frustrations in real time. They saw how authentic communication builds fan engagement even when it's critical, and they're applying those lessons to the WNBA. This creates tension with league officials who still operate under the old model. They want players to be ambassadors who stay on message and promote the positive aspects of the league. But Clark is showing that you can be both an ambassador and a critic simultaneously. Her charitable work and community engagement demonstrate genuine commitment to growing the game. Her referee criticism demonstrates genuine commitment to improving the game. Those aren't contradictory positions. Think about the long-term implications here. If the WNBA embraces this new dynamic, where star players can be honest critics while still being league ambassadors, it creates a more authentic relationship with fans. People respect honesty. They respect players who say what they actually think, rather than delivering corporate-approved sound bites. That authenticity is part of what makes Clark so popular. But if the league pushes back against this approach, if they try to silence player criticism or discourage social media honesty, they risk alienating the very stars who are driving their current growth. Clark doesn't need the WNBA as much as the WNBA needs her. Her endorsement portfolio, her media opportunities, her platform, all of that exists independent of whether she plays professional basketball. The league needs to recognize that power dynamic. Now let's talk about what happens next with the CBA negotiation. The January deadline is approaching fast, and both sides know the stakes. Players have leverage they've never had before because the league is experiencing unprecedented growth. Attendance is up, viewership is up, sponsorship deals are increasing. This is the moment to negotiate from strength. But ownership also has a compelling argument. They're investing heavily in expansion. The Golden State Valkyries paid a reported $50 million expansion fee. That money goes into league coffers, theoretically benefiting all teams and players. New franchises mean more roster spots, more opportunities, more markets. Owners can point to that investment as evidence of their commitment to growth. The challenge is ensuring that growth translates to fair compensation for fear. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. WNBA players are still dramatically underpaid relative to the revenue they generate. Yes, the league has historically operated at a loss. Yes, owners have subsidized operations for years. But at some point, when you're selling out arenas and generating massive television ratings, the financial model needs to reflect that success. Caitlin Clark's presence accelerates this timeline. She's forcing conversations that might have taken another decade to happen. When the Fever sells out every road game, when Clark jerseys are the top-selling merchandise across all women's sports, when her games draw NBA-level viewership numbers, that changes the economic equation. Players can legitimately argue they deserve a larger share because they're producing larger returns. The referee criticism fits into this broader context. It's not just about bad calls in individual games. It's about standards and professionalism, and whether the league is investing adequately in all aspects of the product. If you're going to charge premium prices for tickets, if you're going to negotiate major television deals, if you're going to position the WNBA as a top-tier professional league, then every element needs to meet that standard, including officiating. Clark's willingness to call that out publicly is actually doing the league a favor. She's identifying areas that need improvement before they become bigger problems. Imagine if the WNBA continues growing, viewership continues increasing, and then a playoff game gets decided by an egregiously bad call that goes viral. That's a crisis. Better to address officiating quality now during the growth phase than to wait until it undermines credibility at a crucial moment. So the question becomes, was breaking her social media silence to criticize referees the right move? From a pure PR perspective, probably. It creates controversy during an already tense negotiation period. It gives critics ammunition to claim she's difficult or entitled. It potentially strains her relationship with league officials who would prefer she stay positive. But from an authenticity perspective, from a long-term credibility perspective, it might be exactly the right move. Because Caitlin Clark isn't building her brand on being agreeable. She's building it on being excellent and honest. Fans respect that she says what she thinks. They respect that she holds everyone, including officials, including herself, to high standards. That's leadership. And ultimately, that's what the WNBA needs right now. Not players who blindly promote everything about the league, but players who care enough to demand excellence. Players who use their platforms to push for improvement. Players who understand that criticism and love aren't opposites. They're complementary forces that drive progress. The next few weeks will reveal a lot about where this league is headed. The CBA negotiations will show whether ownership is willing to share the success that players like Clark are creating. The response to her referee criticism will show whether the league can handle honest feedback from its start. And Clark's continued social media activity will show whether she's willing to keep speaking her mind even when it's uncomfortable. My prediction? The CBA gets done, but not without drama. Players will get meaningful increases in compensation and improved conditions, but probably not everything they're asking for. Owners will agree to revenue sharing with escalators tied to growth metrics, and everyone will declare victory while knowing the next negotiation in a few years will be even more intense. As for the referee situation, expect the league to quietly improve training and accountability without publicly acknowledging Clark's criticism. That's how these things usually work. The criticism creates pressure, changes happen behind the scenes, and everyone moves forward without directly connecting the dots. But here's what I want you to think about. Is Caitlin Clark right to use her platform this way? Should the biggest star in the league be publicly criticizing officials, even college officials, during a sensitive negotiation period? Or should she be more strategic, more diplomatic, more careful about when and how she speaks out? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this dynamic is going to define the next era of the WNBA, and I want to know where you stand.